All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board for the board. We hope that you enjoy.
Welcome to episode 132 of the KissFAQ podcast. I am your host this week, STL Kiss, Lonnie Weiser on the board. I know, where's Julian? Julian took the week off and he has left us the reins. On the show today, we have Marcus Almighty.
Greetings.
We have Daniel, all the way from Sweden. And Ken, the voice of reason.
Hello.
Probably need a voice of reason today without Julian here. So today is June 30th, 2017 when we're recording this. It is the 40th anniversary of the release of Kiss's sixth studio album, Love Gun. Kind of Kiss at their pinnacle, a lot of people would say at this point, 40 years ago today with the release of Love Gun. Before we get started, not a whole lot going on as far as news goes lately.
Except that Gene dropped that trademark thing.
Yeah, Gene dropped his trademark suit.
Plus,
Gene said he would kill pedophiles this week.
Yeah, that.
Good idea.
Which I agree with. So I think it's a hot take that I agree with. Other than that, not a whole lot going on in the Kiss world. They have a show coming up in Chicago in a couple of weeks on a big festival. But other than that, not a whole lot of news going on in the Kiss world. But 40th anniversary of Love Gun is definitely something worth talking about and worth celebrating this week on the show. So, just for starters, did anybody here get Love Gun when it came out? Ken, you might be the...
Ken is the only one old enough.
I wasn't going to say it that way.
Wait a minute. Is that a slight from Daniel?
Sorry.
That's all right. Hey, it is what it is. That's old physically, but not mentally. Okay. Well, yeah, June. That was. I just moved to California in that year, January of that year, and I think just shortly around that time, or just a few months before, I actually started to. I became aware of Kiss from my friend who played me Rock and Roll Over. So I was just starting to get into them at that point, though I didn't know Love Gun was out at the time, so I did not get it when it came out. So I didn't get Love Gun until I probably got it late in the year, because my first one was Alive 2, which came out a little bit later in the year. So that was my real entry for Kiss. So yeah, Love Gun, I did not pick it up when it came out.
So when you did get it late in '77, what were your first impressions of the album when you got it?
Oh well, I liked it. I mean, I Saw Your Love, just came out and hit you in the face right there. And I know I think Double Platinum was another early one I had at the time, and I think then I bought that, Live 2, and then Double Platinum, and then I decided, based on the songs I was listening to off of Double Platinum, which album I might get next, based on the songs I like. At the time, I liked Christine 16 a lot, so I'm sure I picked that guy. I liked it on Alive too. I thought, this is a pretty good song. Even though I knew Dr. Love too, I liked that one a lot. So I did. I'm sure I bought it during the end of the year, and I know I thought it was great. I thought it was a good rocking album. There's a couple songs that took a lot longer for it to maybe grow on to me, but. My initial impression was great, and I loved staring at the artwork, that stuff, and loved the goodies that came in it. The Love Gun. I put the Love Gun together did the popping thing. I probably popped it at my mom
double
or
platinum
something.
award. So why wouldn't you put the Love Gun together?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. But so it's just a great package and one of their best albums.
Sure. Daniel, what about you? When did you first buy Love Gun or first hear it?
Yeah, I got into Kiss back in like 84, 85, somewhere around there, and I bought Animalize and Asylum and those kind of records, and became a fan. And then I went to like, I don't know what you say, like a flea market or something with the old records, and I found this one. I guess it was somewhere around 86, 87. This is the actual copy I got. And brought it back home and started listening to it. And I was really disappointed. Because it didn't sound anything like Tears Are Falling.
Oh, yeah.
Or Heaven's on Fire. Or I've Had Enough Into the Fire. Or Who Wants to Be Lonely, So my first Kiss was like the Paul Stanley in center of Kiss singing all these great tunes, Gene filling out with a couple of songs, and then this was one of the first classic albums I got. So initially I was disappointed, but of course it has grown on me since then.
Cool.
It's interesting. Yeah, everybody has a different timeline, so that's
Yeah.
And what people's expectations in that timeline are always different. So that's interesting. Mark, what about you?
Well, I didn't get this record till much later as well. My first Kiss record was a live one, which I got for Christmas from my sister. But my older sister got it when it came out. She's like 7 years older than I am. So that album had been spinning in our house since it came out. But at that point, I didn't really even know who it was or whatever. So at that point, I didn't really even care at that point because I was really young then when she had that. But later on, as I started getting into it, I kind of initially had the same reaction as Daniel, though, to be honest, at first, because when I first got into it, I got a live one, which I thought was, pretty cool. But then I started getting a lot of the, I guess you would call them newer records at that time. Like I got like Animalize and I got a Lick It Up and stuff like that. And then when I went back to Love Gun, I was kind of like, these guitars sound wimpy compared to the other stuff, because it sounded, they didn't have the high gain amps and any of those things for those records. They had like the straight old school Marshall heads and stuff like that. So it's more the classic sound. But much like Daniel and you guys, as I started getting more familiar with their catalog and getting more into Kiss and et cetera, it's grown on me. It's not my favorite Kiss album, but it's probably in my top 10.
Fair enough, for sure. I got Love Gun in probably 1988, 1989, and I got it on cassette, which is perfect for about that. Which is very typical for that time frame.
Yeah.
And I was about 9 or 10 years old when I got it. My brother had Destroyer and Creatures of the Night on cassette. I wanted my own Kiss album, and my parents got me Love Gun. I think for my birthday, I got Love Gun for whatever reason. And I loved it. Having that Destroyer and Creatures were what I knew about Kiss at the time. Love Gun fit in. It doesn't have the production that Mark hates with Destroyer, but it does. It still sounded like Kiss to me, as opposed to what maybe Daniel was expecting when he bought Love Gun, as opposed to what he had been listening to. So it fit in with what I knew of Kiss when I got it on cassette, and I loved it. I thought it was it's just another Kiss record, and this is what Kiss sounds like, and it was fantastic. It was a very, very early on impression of the band for me. So I've always enjoyed the album. Wore that cassette out until I bought it on CD a few years later. So, so that's our first impressions of Love Gun. What about the packaging? I mean, I got the package. My packaging was just the cassette. And when you bought those cassettes, it was the cassette, and then it was like half of it really was the album cover. It was really hard to really make out what was going on. Yeah, there's girls on the steps, and it's a great Ken Kelly painting, obviously. And I bought the vinyl of it, I guess, when I was about 17. There's a record store down the street from me I used to ride my bike to and then eventually drive to once I got my license. And he had a sealed copy of Love Gun. It was like $30. It's like, oh wow, it's really cool. And he's like, and I always go in there and buy Kiss stuff from this guy. And he goes, and it was still, he had it labeled, still sealed. And he goes, if you buy this from me, you're not going to open it, are you? Because it's been sealed 20 years. He goes, if you really want Love Gun, I'll find you another copy of Love Gun. But if you buy this one, don't open it. So
one of those guys, eh?
So I bought it, and I thought this guy was, I thought he was like the coolest guy in the world. He owned his own record store, and I was like, man, I'd love to do that one day. But meanwhile, the industry died, and owning your own record store isn't really profitable. But he goes, if you buy this one, don't open it. He goes, I'll get you another copy. So I ended up buying 2 copies of Love Gun from this guy. One that I never have opened to this day, and one that I opened and then I played. But
I gotta ask you though.
What?
I gotta ask you something though.
Yeah.
You got the cassette, right?
Correct.
Now, did you get the old school one that just had the cover and then the song titles underneath the front cover at the very front, or did you have like a regular copy that had the song titles in the back? Everybody those old school versions that have the songs written underneath the front there.
It actually had the titles on the back.
Oh, okay.
It had like a tan case on the back side of it. I still have it down. Even though I wore it out, I still have it downstairs. Just
I'd hate when you get those copies where you would open it and on the inside of the J card there's like nothing written in there at all. It was just the front cover, and you open it and there's nothing there. It's like they totally skimped out on some of those, pressings of the cassettes. It was brutal,
So I ended up buying 2 more copies of it and on CD, and I bought it on CD twice because I bought the original and then the remaster. And what about you guys? What about your thoughts on the packaging, or how many different times have you bought the album?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, just
Julian's not here to really embarrass us.
I'll start, right. But see, this here is obviously the Japanese pressing, right, with the OB and everything, right. This is not the album that I have the most copies of, but needless to say, I have about 8 or 9 vinyl pressings of this. I got the Canadian, I got the US, I got the Japanese, I got 2 different German ones. I bought quite a few of them. I got it on CD, the original one, and the remaster, and I have a bit of as well, I think too. But I got quite a few copies, but nowhere near as many as I have of like Rock and Roll Over or Alive. I got like easily like 15 vinyl of each of those ones. So
yeah, Rock and Roll Over, you can never get enough of them.
Yeah.
No. Ken, what about you? Did you just do a quick count?
Well, okay, I kind of estimate. I have down behind me. I'm somewhere around 12 vinyls. And yeah, that includes like
Daniel looks disgusted.
Like Mark, there's there's the different label variations, and Mark can attest to this stuff. There's different variations of the labels and other countries that they came from and so on, where they were pressed. So then I got a misprint, on a label, kind of thing. So probably around 12 of those, and then if you count CDs, right? I have,
Oh yeah, and the deluxe too. I bought that.
A few. I had original Japanese CD when they came out there originally. What was it, late 80s or something? And then the US, and then the US remaster, and then the Love Gun, the one the deluxe edition. Right. So I did that. Just quickly, I want to put in that I had some facts about at least the initial recording of the album, about that they just got off the Japanese tour and came back, and then they they started
Three-
recording May 3rd through May 28th.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah, and they just knocked it out, and then
Yeah.
they actually went into shortly after that. They did the rehearsals. Actually, started rehearsals
Live 2 tour.
in June 20th to 26th at Star Sound Studios or something like that, and then the 27th they did a couple more days in a airport hangar in Stewart Airport, New York. So yeah, and then I think they went right back out on the road, not shortly after. So
That's crazy.
The Love Gun tour, wasn't it like Love Gun tour record, and then the Alive 2 tour was like a second phase of the tour.
Yeah, I think so.
That was like the most. I guess they were at their height of their popularity.
Success. Yeah.
yeah, that's about the
Access.
height. Merchandising, and they call it the end of basically the classic
Classic era.
Did you buy the ebook Kiss? Kurt's book there. Did you buy it? The
No.
touring.
I have the actual book when it came out,
Yeah.
so I still have that.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually bought it. I
digital?
watched and it's all Julian's fault because I watched the episode. and it was like late at night, 2 a.m. And I need that one. And
Yeah.
you just have to do one click. So I read it just recently, and what struck me was they toured, and then they recorded when they were supposed to, have downtime.
Yeah.
And
No
then
time.
right back on tour, and then record right back on tour, and then they recorded for a lot of years, and it was crazy. It must have been heaven to be a Kiss fan back then. You could see them on tour, and then a new album, and then go out back and see them on tour.
A lot of people though attest that to being the reason though why they broke up or why the stresses happened, because they didn't have any away time from each other. They were driving each other nuts probably by that time.
I mean, it's crazy to think about. Ken was saying they recorded the album May 3rd through May 28th, and then it's out June 30th. I mean,
Yeah.
as much as we wait around for albums at this point, or
No.
it seems like remember when they were recording Monster. I mean, it seemed like forever they were taking the recording, and then it was done. It was done, and they had this press conference with Motley Crue in the spring of 2012. But then the album didn't come out till October. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but back in '77, they record it one month, it's out the next month, and they're out on tour promoting it. It's like,
And the
bam,
record-
bam, bam.
And the records were a lot better.
That's right.
Yeah,
they
but
think
that's
too
what
much. That's the problem,
Yeah.
Well, the problem is too that Casablanca was their label back then, and they were the numero uno band on it, so they were the first priority. Now they're on Universal, where there's hundreds of other bands, and they're definitely not numero uno on that record label.
no.
So,
Oh, no.
so as soon as they make it, they're on a schedule. They're saying, okay, you record the record now. We'll schedule you guys in for 7 months from now for the release, so that we can prepare everything, because they know how much money they put into some of these bands to promote it, right? All their resources get tied up into some of this stuff, so they got put into a schedule. But back then, Casablanca said whatever Kiss wanted or needed to make them bigger, they did everything they could then. So that's probably why it was also that much quicker.
So Lonnie, before we got a little bit, I sidetracked things by doing that. But
No.
my thoughts on the actual packaging was cool. I mean, of course, like I said earlier, the painting on it was just awesome. We just stared at it like I stared at posters when I first was getting into them at that time. And then the insert, of course, the Love Gun itself was cool. And then the sleeve with the blood
Oh yeah.
kind of KISS letters is like, I knew it wasn't real blood, of course, like the comic book, right? They actually poured that. Now that would have been cool had they took those vials, besides putting it in the the ink for a comic book, but they poured it out and tried to make the Kiss letters. But that would have been way out there.
Yeah.
It was such a shame that it was such a shame that Ken Kelly didn't do something like this for Sonic Boom. I think that record could have been a lot bigger if he did something like this.
I agree. Maybe he should do the next album.
I don't know what the hell
if
they did for
if
that
there
cover.
is one.
I guess Paul told him that he needed to use, wasn't it Ken Kelly who did the Sonic Boom cover?
No, Michael
No, it was
Doré.
Michael Doré.
Yeah.
The guy who did Rock and Roll
Okay,
Over.
yeah, the Rock and Roll Over guy. But if he had done something similar to Rock and Roll Over, I don't know what they did on. I don't know what you think about the Sonic Boom album cover, but I don't like it at all. And I guess he was restrained by Paul because he said he wanted real pictures.
You wanted
and
real pictures of
that
Tommy and
sabotaged
Aaron.
the whole album cover.
Yeah.
But they could have done something like Rock and Roll Over or like Destroyer or Love Gun or something like that.
Yeah.
It would be a bigger hit,
Yeah.
But this one is one of
So
the
what
best.
about you, Daniel? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the cover is excellent, of course. When I went to the bins at the flea market, The Elder was right next to this one, and I picked this one.
Of course.
So you don't have
Yeah.
17 copies of this album?
Actually,
I think you guys are freaking
this is
wacko.
this is kind of embarrassing. This is the only one I have.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a
Call
real
yourself a Kiss
fan. No, because
Right.
I'm not a real fan. I have
Not a real
only one album, and it was quite a few years since I gave it a spin. But CDs came, and you could do your own versions. So I quickly downloaded the album, and I erased Hooligan. Then She Kissed Me, and Got Love for Sale, and then I put it together with the best songs from Destroyer, and I used that CD.
Destroyer?
Yeah, Destroyer and Love Gun. I compiled those into one CD. You
Interesting.
have 80 minutes, so that was a great CD. There I spun a whole
Love Gun
lot
Destroyer.
more bits. Yeah.
You added like one song from Destroyer?
Oh boy.
Wow.
There you go.
Damn, Gina.
There was a few. There were a few more.
But it really harkens. This album though. Ken was talking about the sleeve with the blood on it, and the order form, and the Love Gun. It was really Kiss at their pinnacle with their packaging. Really what they were known for. The order form has the comic book on it, which came out the same day, didn't it?
It's supposed to come out the same day.
Yeah.
That's the
Supposedly, anyway. And the poster with the New York City backdrop, and it's if you just looking at the packaging and the order form and the Love Gun, and it's just the whole package itself. It's really just a great snapshot of Kiss at their peak with what made them at their peak with the merchandising, with the comic book, with the album cover, with the fantastic album cover, and the great songs as well. It really harkens why Kiss was the best band voted in the Gallup polls the biggest band in the country.
Yeah, that's right. They were number one at that time.
So let's go through just go through the album song by song.
Yeah, cool.
So Ken, I got to ask you this: when you put the album on, did you do it backwards like Dynasty and listen to Love Gun first?
Yeah.
Or did you
Right,
listen
I
to
know.
I Stole Your Love first?
That's funny. Yeah.
That's what the people want to know.
I know. I didn't do it like I did Dynasty, where I looked at the back cover first. I didn't look
Alright.
at the back cover. I actually looked at the label, the album, where it said, okay, side one, this on side two. So I knew which one to do. So I did it the right way. So I put it on there, and I Stole Your Love was, like I said earlier, it just charges out the gate, and it's just a great riff. And I think what Paul Stanley has said before, that he based that song, or he got the idea from Deep Purple's Burn, the song Burn, Deep Purple. So that is, and you know what? if you can come close to Burn or similar to that, it works with me because that's a great song. So yeah, this is a great song, and it comes out just charging. I mean, it's a great, I think it has been used at some points as a concert opener. I think it.
Yeah,
at
that's
least,
a tour.
yeah. So it's great. It's a great.
Hot in the shade, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So it's a great song. Nothing bad to say about it.
Danny,
I think
what about you?
the other
I stole your
thing.
lip.
Sorry
Go
about
ahead.
that. The other thing, I think this song has a trade. I think there's the
Yes. Paul A solo.
yeah, Ace, and I think it's Ace and Paul play lead in this. But
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
Polynese, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to say, because I think that solo is one of the greatest ones, because Paul starts it off, and then Ace Frehley finishes it off, and it sounds great. The song is a classic. They really pulled it off when they started the Hot in the Shade tour, and they started with that song. It was a kick-ass version, and too bad they haven't used it a lot in the set in the later years, unfortunately, because it's to me it's kind of similar to the great songs that Paul wrote for Rock and Roll Over. I Want You and Making Love, based on a main riff that's really cool, somewhere around the 7th fret. And they all sound great. And this is probably my favorite from this album, I Stole Your Love. And the vocals are really aggressive and great. And this one is a real classic. So that's one for I mean, to me, that's the best song on the album.
Yeah, I got to agree. I think I Stole Your Love is probably one of their better album openers and even concert openers. I think that it's really hard hitting. It grabs your attention right away, and I love it when I watch the old footage, like when I have that the Love Gun tour there, and they come down in those little elevators down when they start with that. It's really cool. It's like it's a strong moment that kind of sticks in your mind as a Kiss fan when you think of that, right? So, and you kind of get the feeling that Paul Stanley wrote that song with that in mind. Like he kind of almost envisioned it as the opener of the concert and the opening song of the record. I know that he's said that a few times, that he kind of thinks that way sometimes when he writes. Like when he wrote, Psycho Circus, he thought that way. When he wrote, Detroit Rock City, he had that in mind as well as an opener. So he writes with that kind of vision in his mind. So I think this one really was a home run when it comes to that sort of thinking, and then music being brought into play with it.
Yeah, for sure. I think you can definitely make that argument that Paul wrote the song and envisioned it to be the opener on the Love Gun tour. You can definitely make that argument. I mean, it's such a kick-ass riff, and it's a great way to start not only a show but the album as well. It's just an in-your-face riff when that song starts on the record, and at the same time you can see that's why. Remember if you remember Detroit Rock City, the movie, the mom, that's the record that she accidentally puts on at the beginning of the movie, and it's the perfect song for that as well. It's just because it is such a driving force song that, and it's obviously she's looking for like the Carpenters or something like that, and it's just totally opposite of what she's expecting. So I Still Your Love is one of my favorite Kiss songs, and it's really a shame that it didn't get the attention that it deserved after the reunion. They played it a few times on the reunion tour, not very often at all. If you go back and look at set lists from Alive Worldwide 96, 97, if they were playing a second night in a city, sometimes they would throw it in. I think like when they played Detroit in the fall of 96, they played it that night. And they played a couple other, like I think they played Take Me that night too, just to mix it up a little bit from what they did when they were there a few months prior. But not very often, if you go back and look at that tour, do you hear that, you see that song, and then you don't see it at all on Psycho Circus. They didn't play it on the farewell tour. Maybe in one of those medleys in Australia or something like that. Maybe they tinkered with it. And I think they brought it back maybe for a couple shows on Rock the Nation when they were kind of mixing it up a little bit every night. But but other than that, they really haven't. It really hasn't been a staple in any set list or anything like that. Really, in 20 years, they did play it on the cruise that I went to. They played it that night. The crowd started chanting "I Stole Your Love," and they went into it and played it, which was really cool. But other than that, I mean, for such a classic Kiss song and we're all just singing its praises, it really hasn't been a staple in any kind of Kiss set list in the 20 years since they've had the makeup back on. Just kind of a shame in my opinion.
Yeah, you know, the 1-2 punch at the Hard in the Shade tour was one of the best. You know, that started with I Stole Your Love and Dukes. To me, that's one of the strongest openings they ever had to any tour. I think it was just great, and that was one of the reasons that tour was kind of a success.
I agree.
Yeah.
So Christine 16's a song that has been a staple in the Kiss set list as of recent years.
I don't know why.
They played it quite a bit since 2004, really. Since Rock the Nation, they've really played it quite a bit on seemingly, it almost seems like almost every tour, or every other tour. What are you guys' thoughts of Christine 16? Mark, let's go right back to you.
Well, I don't mind it. I mean, it wasn't really my favorite song off the record. I mean, back when I was first getting into music and stuff like that, and when you're young and kind of, you know, impressionable and trying to think of what's cool and what isn't, the whole piano thing kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I thought that was kind of hokey and kind of 60s sounding, right? So I thought that wasn't too cool. But it piqued my interest later on, years later, because of when you started learning all that information about Eddie and Alex playing on the original demo and stuff like that, and you start thinking, I wonder how different the demo is from this version and stuff like that. So that kind of it got my interest back into the song a bit more. But, you know, I can understand why it's maybe a staple now. It's a Gene song. Paul doesn't need to sing. It's one less song for him to have to worry about on stage. And, you know, Gene can sing it decently still. So, and it's a classic. And, you know, you want to quiet those fans that keep saying they don't play any classic songs, so at least they can pull this one out and do it. But it's far from my favorite off of this record. I can say that, but I can see that it was another attempt by Gene to make, you know, that hit for Kiss, you know, that they were always kind of looking for, but not really, right?
Mm-hmm. Daniel, what about you, Christine 16?
I agree with the piano thing. I didn't like that. It was almost as bad as Crazy Nights keyboards. But and I don't know if any of you guys are Catholic, but this has to be the Catholic Cardinals, you know, national anthem. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of sickening.
Wow.
You know, it's kind of sickening to hear like Christine 16, and especially that middle part. When I saw you coming out of school that day, I knew I got to tell you. You know that part. It's kind of sick.
Yeah.
But aside from that,
Kind
I
of
think
a respect to Gene's pedophile comment this week.
yeah, exactly what it said.
Oh, no.
I hate pedophiles, but I'm one as well. You know, I think the lyrics kind of, you know, turn me off. But as a song, it's pretty good. But lose the piano, and I guess nowadays they have to sing Christy 60 or something.
Right. Ken, what about you?
All right. Well, I always liked the song. Well, especially when I first heard it, I liked the song. I mean, it's not my favorite Kiss song, but I still enjoy it. It's a catchy tune, like Mark was saying. It was Gene's kind of trying to write the hit song on the album. Yeah, I think when I listened to that middle talking part, when I first heard it, I thought, oh, it's kind of like, you know, when Elvis Presley did that kind of stuff in his a song or two, where he did that middle speaking part. Maybe it's I Can't Help Falling in Love or one of those.
Right, yeah.
I thought, oh, he's trying to do an Elvis or something like that, you know. in the middle. And at the time I thought, well, I just pictured it as myself or something, saying those things. And so it wasn't like, a pedophile kind of thing. To me at the time, I didn't think of it that way. Now, you think of it that way, especially as Gene gets older and the band gets older and he's singing it now. It just doesn't work the
feel
same.
A little dirty, doesn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't work the same now as it did back then. Maybe he should change that middle part and change the lyrics up a little bit. So, but yeah, I always enjoyed the song.
But I was kind of surprised they brought that one out for the Revenge tour, Lonnie. They were going for a rougher, tougher sound, and then suddenly they brought out Christine 16. They played that a lot on the Revenge tour. I don't know why. You remember that?
A little different, yeah, that it doesn't really fit with because they were going for a more, tough. They were going for a more tough and cool look at the time,
Yeah.
So, but I liked Christine 16 when I was young.
Yeah.
When I first, kind of like, going back to what Ken was saying, when I first got the album and I was 8 or 9, you're 8 or 9 years old. There's nothing more beautiful than a 16-year-old girl when you're 8 or 9 years old too. You know what I mean? So that it kind of registered with me when you're that age. And I enjoyed it when I was young, and now it's kind of like, it is a little creepy, maybe you could say, but it's still a fun song. You guys brought up the piano in it, and I think that I can remember too being young listening to it, like, oh, what's the piano doing in here? I don't need a piano in here in a Kiss song.
In any Kiss song, no.
Right. So, but it's a fun song, and it's recognizable, I guess, and that's why they still play it on tour. And it's a good song for Gene to sing. But
to me, it's like Gene is so influenced by '60s rock and roll, and sometimes it comes through. And this is one of the times when you see he's like paying homage to the '60s or '50s.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point Ken brought up too about the Elvis speaking.
Yeah.
It does remind you of that. I never thought about that before, but Elvis had quite a few songs where he, start talking in the middle of it about whatever. But I'm not going to do an Elvis impression on the show.
Yeah.
But
Baby.
it's about how he misses Priscilla or whatever. But that's a good. I never thought about like that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, Elvis was great.
Got Love for Sale is the third song, and I got to hear Got Love for Sale at a recent Gene's show, and it was
cool,
absolutely fantastic, and just
he could have played anything.
No, exactly. So freaking refreshing to hear going into that. God, it was awesome. I loved every second of it, and again, because maybe it was a song that is on Love Gun, a song that I had, an album that I had when I was really young, and it just takes me way back. And it's just a song I've known basically my whole life. And to see Gene up on stage playing that song, a song that I would never, ever expect to hear Gene Simmons ever sing live, much less at a Gene Simmons solo show, and I'm 10 feet from the guy. Just fantastic. And it's a fun song. It's definitely, it's not a... It's a song they never had played before live. It's not a people pleaser type song that they would play at a Kiss show.
Yeah.
But it's a fun song, and it's classic Kiss feel to it, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm really high on it right now because I just saw Gene sing it, and Ken, you probably will be too here after you see.
That's
Gene.
right. Yeah.
What do you think about the Gene Simmons tour? I think it's just one of the greatest things in a few years. I think it's
so refreshing.
Good.
It is good.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point though about that, because for me, as far as the song goes, when I first got the record, I didn't really think too much of this song. I thought it was, whatever, it was okay. It wasn't as strong as some of the Paul songs on the record, but years later, and as I started getting into other records, like let's say Double Platinum and stuff like that, which I really enjoyed and listened to a lot, you start getting used to more of the hits and the more popular songs off of it. And then when you go back to a record like Love Gun, when you haven't listened to it for a long time, beginning to end, all of a sudden it becomes totally fresh again. Just like how you guys said, you go to a concert, you've been seeing Kiss so long, and heard all those songs that they do every single tour, that when they do a song like God Love for Sale or even Almost Human or something, if he was to pull out, or Charisma, you're like, wow, even though you might not even have thought anything of these songs beforehand, now all of a sudden they're your favorite because you've never heard it in a live capacity, and now all of a sudden it's fresh and new, right?
Yeah,
For sure.
but are they really good songs then, or is it just that we haven't heard them live?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. But to me, I've Got Love for Sale on this album is like kind of a throwaway. There's no real great solo or chorus, and because English is my second language, I really don't get it. Is he like talking about a prostitute, or is he a gigolo? What the hell is happening? I don't really get it. You have to explain.
Well,
me.
He's talking about it from his perspective, right? Because in the pre-chorus chorus part, they keep singing "Have Love Will Travel," right? Yeah. Which was the original title of the song before, right? So it's almost like he's saying, that he'll go anywhere for love, right? Like he's the man who's gonna go. Yeah, well, sex. I guess he could. It's easier to rhyme love than it is sex, probably, in a song, right?
Interesting.
So,
I was playing the song close to when Gene was getting ready to come here, and he had played it, at a show prior, and I was playing it, and my wife goes, it sounds like he's like he's a pimp, or he's like a male prostitute or something.
I don't get it.
She goes, this is horrible. I go, oh no, this is great. She goes, I've never heard this song before. Oh, this is great. She goes, this is horrible. This is awful. I go, oh, no. But, you hear about, and you've probably heard this adage before, that if you take a lot of Kiss songs and you replace the word love with dick, it takes on a whole new meaning. So I think this song is one of those songs for sure that you can make that adage too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so Ken, what about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I never looked into the lyrics of this song too much.
Good for you.
Fortunately, but I just like the groove of the song. Just the way it chugs along, at a good pace, and I like his vocals on it. It's pretty darn good. I think he played guitar. This is the album where sometimes they were playing a little bit more their own instruments or other instruments, besides bass. He played guitar on this one, as he did, I think, on Christine 16 on the album. But it's a good song. Yeah, it's not one of the best, but it's like this hidden nugget it's good to hear every now and then. I wouldn't skip the song. No, I enjoy the song. I wouldn't skip it. So it's a decent song.
Decent, yeah.
So speaking of gems, the next song is the vocal debut of Ace Frehley with "Shock Me." Daniel, I'm going to throw it right to you on this. I know you're a big Ace Frehley guy, so let's hear from you first.
I think it was a great addition to add Ace's vocals to the album. It added something, and I especially enjoy the drumming on this song. I don't know what happened to Peter Criss on this one, but he's doing some fantastic stuff. It's really rememberable. You remember the drums on this one because he's doing a lot of stuff, and also Ace's solo is huge. It's great, and I remember every part of it. And I just watched a recent video on YouTube when a guy went through Ace Frehley's 17 most used techniques. I guess he used at least 10 or 11 on this solo, and it sounds great. That's a tip for you guys if you would like to learn some Ace solo guitar stuff. just type in Ace Frehley technique on YouTube, and this is the first hit, I guess. And it's really great and easy to learn. I'm sure Mark knows all of them already, but for the other guys out there. But it's a great song, and I think it's perfect for the album. And when listening to the album he released the year after, his solo album, I guess they could have used one or two more songs from Ace on this album, and it would have been real fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really standout song. I agree with Daniel. The drumming on this is really fantastic. I think that Peter must have gotten his new stash of white powder before he drummed this one, and but honestly though, I think that
sang
also
Peter's praises last week.
But I gotta say though, I think that also Eddie Kramer did a really great job on getting a fantastic guitar tone for this song. If you listen to the rest of the album, this guitar and this song particularly has a much more in-your-face, growly sort of guitar sound than the rest of the record. So it's almost like they put special emphasis on it because they knew it was his debut kind of vocal song too. So they really wanted to make it stand out, not only vocally but also musically too for him, right? And I think it's a really, really great song. I think that, he sang it good. I think the whole vibe of it is good. The bass guitar is good, and rumor has it that Ace did the bass on this as well. Who knows if that's true or not? But it's really well done. I think that Eddie Kramer really put special attention to not only just the rhythm guitars, but also the guitar solo sound that Ace got on this song is really, really good. I think that when they mixed this song, they really wanted to make it that much more special for Ace, because it's his first song for the record. Why not make it that much more standoutish for him?
Yeah, I agree. This song, at first, the first time I heard it, is the shock point is like shocked me, but is the vocal was so different from the other, from Gene, Paul, and Peter. It's like this voice is way different than the other voices, but so it took me a little longer to get used to his vocal. But I love the song, and like Mark says, the guitars are much up, more forward, out there, and sound much better. And I guess the rumor has it, or I guess the story goes that Ace sang it while lying on his back in the studio. Yeah. So,
right.
And again, like Daniel said, the guitar solo is just awesome, and then he ended up using. They ended up using that for the extended, guitar solo in the tour afterwards. He played this solo, and then he just continued it and had that great solo on the live too, that we hear. And Peter's drumming, that was a good pickup there, because I always thought I loved Peter's drumming on this. A lot of syncopation kind of stuff going on in there. It's like he never did that stuff on any of their songs, and this one he did differently, which is very interesting that he decided to do that. But it's a great song.
It is a fantastic song, and it's the perfect song for Ace Frehley to debut his vocals on. It's a great song on the album. It's a great song live. It sounds fantastic on live too with the extended solo. And I always liked during the reunion era that when they would get ready to do Shock Me, Ace would come to the microphone. Paul would introduce it, and Ace would come to the microphone and he'd go, "Shock Me," and he'd go, "Hit it, Peter," which I always thought was cool. It was like a tip of the cap to Peter because he would always kick off that song with that great drum beat. And I always really enjoyed that aspect of it. And it's really just Ace Frehley's moment to shine, not only on the album, but whenever the song is played live, whenever the song was played live as well, because it's him doing the vocals, it's him with the guitar solo, with the extended guitar solo, with the smoking guitar. It was really just Ace Frehley's moment in the show Shock Me became. And we all sat here and sang its praises, that it has a great drum beat, that it has a great solo, and I guess that's why it's still played live to this day, even with a different spaceman singing it.
It don't matter.
you know,
It's a good
have
song.
your opinion of it the way you want. But it is it's a great Ace Frehley song. But you know what? It's also a great Kiss song, and that's why it's still played live to this day. And for the average Kiss fan, they go, you know, it's just, oh, and this is when the guy in the space makeup sings his song. I remember this the last time I was here, and I remember, you know, even if they don't even have Love Gun or they don't have Alive 2, oh yeah, I remember this when I saw them 20 years ago on their reunion tour. I remember this when I saw them in '78. Even if they don't, like I said, even if they don't have the album, but oh yeah, I remember this part of the show. It's just part of the Kiss show is when the spaceman sings "Shock Me" and goes into the solo. So.
Yeah.
Say what you will about if you have your problems with Tommy singing it, but it's a great Kiss song, and that's why it's still part of the show. So Tomorrow and Tonight ends side 1 of Love Gun. In my opinion, Tomorrow and Tonight, they were trying to do a remake of Rock and Roll Night and a remake of Shout It Out Loud. They wanted an anthem type song for the album. And for me, the song really falls short of the mark of where it needed to be, especially for those other 2 songs. It's just, it's fine. It's, you know, it's a Kiss song off the first 6 records. I have a hard time really criticizing any song off those 6 original studio albums. But I can see what they were trying to do, and for me, it really
Love
falls
theme from
short
Kiss?
of where it needs to be. What's that?
Love theme from Kiss.
Love theme
Kiss
from
in
Kiss.
Time.
Well, and we'll get to Then She Kissed Me as well here in a little bit. But
Right.
for me, it kind of falls short of the mark of an anthem song from Kiss. It's okay, but it's not. It doesn't stand out to me. What about you guys?
Well, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's so obviously an attempt at making another, you know, hit of that style. You know, whether it's Shout It Out Loud or Rock and Roll Night. I mean, it gives it away with that chorus with those backing girl singers that they have in there. You know,
I didn't like that when I was young too.
it just that to me always screams that they're trying to make a sort of a big top 40 kind of hit. Now, I'd be lying if I didn't say that over the years it's kind of gotten better in my eyes than it first did when I first heard it. But it's never been anything too memorable for me. And the fact that they, you know, put it on Alive too, but it was that infamous, you know, rehearsal version they just added audience to. I mean, they obviously didn't have too much faith in it as a live song if they didn't really play it ever live, right? But you know, it's one of those songs, and it's very rare that I would ever say this, but it's to me like how Gene has his throwaway songs, like God Love for Sale. This is like a Paul version of a throwaway song, you know. And he doesn't have very many of them, in my opinion. At least not back in this day and age. You know, later on, yeah, there's been some Paul stinkers, but at this time, not so many.
Mm-hmm. Good. I agree with that. You know, it's just okay, and it's good analysis that they never did attempt to play it live. That I think they knew that it fell short of the mark, even though with what they were trying to do with making an anthem type song, that it never. But I think they knew that it doesn't stand up to some of the other songs on the album or some of the other anthem type Kiss songs. So
yeah.
Ken, what about you?
Yeah, the song. Yeah, it's obvious that he's trying to write another Rock and Roll Night. I think if he's going to try to write another one of those, he needs to co-write it with Gene, because that's why that song came together. It's from 2 completely different songs, and it worked, right? It seems that when they write together, they're able to create some, pretty good song. They should try writing together more. Tell you the truth. What's funny is I was reading this book about, I think it was the Encyclopedia, saying that Paul Stanley borrowed elements of Mott the Hoople's Golden Age of Rock and Roll.
Yeah, this book.
When writing the song, Oh yeah, well,
You guys all have your
yeah, I
reference
got a different
points,
one. I was looking at this other one too. I know that one, but this is the other one, the encyclopedia one, which probably took from that book. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's I can remember. I can, it's not hard to remember the chorus of that song, but it's not something I go to listen to. Say, yeah, I need to listen to this song. No, I don't.
Yeah.
It's a song that just kind of comes on. It's not a reference point to start.
Yeah, it can almost be called filler, I guess. But it's not a bad song. It's just a song like, oh, it's pretty good. I see what he's going for. Now let's go to the side two.
Yeah, it's not a song that you seek out, or I want to listen to some Kiss, and I'm going to start with Tomorrow and Tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to some Kiss, and well, maybe Tomorrow and Tonight's on my playlist for today in this particular playlist that I'm listening to, or whatever.
I don't hear the resemblance to Rock and Roll All Night, even though he said he was trying to write another one. I feel it's more in the tone of Then She Kissed Me, or a 60s song, kind of a catchy chorus, but way too poppy for a Kiss album at this time. So to me, it's more like he's paying homage to, much like Gene did in Christine 16. It sounds like an old song, an old pop song. And it's a good old pop song, but not for this album. So I remember when I listened to this one, I wasn't that old. We're somewhere around 10, 11 years old. I liked it, but nowadays I don't care for it that much. But and I think this was the start. I mean, to me, this is the last Kiss album that sounded like Kiss,
Mm-hmm.
And you started to see the cracks in Then She Kissed Me and songs like Tomorrow and Tonight. They were trying to sound like something else. Mm. And to me, Tomorrow and Tonight is a good song. It's just not a good Kiss song. It sounds like the thing they say about the Elder, but I don't like the Elder at all.
Well, let's talk about a song that I think we're all going to sing praises to. And side 2 starts off with the title track, which is kind of bizarre. But side 2 starts off with the title track of the album, staple in the Kiss set list for the next 40 years. Yeah. Fantastic song, fantastic riff, great way to start off the second side of the album. It's another in-your-face type of Kiss song. It's Paul Stanley at maybe his best. Paul said something, I don't know, a few years ago in an interview, that he said, if you put a gun to my head, I couldn't write a song. I think this is even before Sonic Boom came out. He said, if you put a gun to my head, I couldn't write a song as good as Love Gun if my life depended on it. And it is a fantastic song. It's a staple. It's a song that Kiss is just known for. If you know 10 Kiss songs, you know Love Gun, in my opinion. Probably. Mm-hmm. It's a great song. It's great lyrics. Paul Stanley. It's a Paul Stanley song, really, almost. It's Paul Stanley at his best.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Well, I think, again, this is another example of him having the vision of the song before he even picked up his guitar. I mean, the story is he heard the whole song in his head, pretty much wrote it on a plane flight back from Japan, right? So, I mean, and I've kind of had that experience once myself, where I've kind of was somewhere else and an idea for a song popped into my head, and I kind of figured out other parts to it while I was away from my instrument, came home, picked it up, and figured that it actually kind of worked, and wrote a song. So I can totally relate to him coming up with this idea that he wrote up this song in his head. And but then again, at this point, they were so well into the money and stuff like that he could go and go into Electric Lady anytime he wanted to, and record really decent demos. Like, the demos were almost as good as the final album versions of these songs, and work it out to great detail and give it to the band. That's the main difference I've always noticed between Gene and Paul. Is Paul's demos and songs that he would submit were always so well done and well thought out and written. Gene's were always sounded like, he had a transistor radio somewhere in his bathroom with him, and he recorded on a crappy acoustic or something, and they would vary in quality, and in songwriting quality too. But that's because he wrote so many different songs and so many things. He just recorded everything. But I think Paul's very much more selective, and would keep only his prime material for people to hear. And I think Love Gun is a prime example of that. That he just came up with a really strong idea. He sat in the studio, worked it all out, because I think it was just him and somebody just to drum, and that's it for the demo. And he worked it out to the point of where he was extremely happy with it and submitted it. And I think he did the same thing with I Stole Your Love as well. I think that was the same idea with that. So he had two extremely strong songs going into the record, and they showed. Look how well they turned out in the end for the final version.
For sure. Love Gun opened the Crazy Nights tour and opened the Rock the Nation tour. It's a great it works as an opener for I thought it worked really well as an opener for a show. Usually they have been playing it later in the show, but and it's a good kick in the ass, like late in the show. All of a sudden you go in the Love Gun late in the show, you're still pulling out classic tunes late in the show, so it works well no matter where it was placed in the set. Daniel, what about you?
There's not much to say about Love Gun because it's just pure perfection. But do you remember that tune that sounded a little bit too similar to Love Gun?
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Yeah. It was just a few years ago. Someone posted on the KissFAQ board a link to another song that was pretty similar to Love Gun. So I'm not sure about the whole thing when Paul says it just came to me on the plane. I think he listened to that song previously, and then he got on the plane, and then I have a great idea. I copied quite a lot from that other song, but it doesn't really matter because it's just a great tune. It works well live. I love the way they end it when he shoots like the lights in the truss. That's great. It looks awesome, and it's always been a favorite.
Yeah,
sure.
It's a great lead off for side two. This whoever has vinyl. But the other cool thing about this song is that, and I don't know who came up with that idea, is the riff, actually the drum riff, like a machine gun kind of thing in there that they do. But I'm sure Peter loved doing that because he's a big gun guy. He loves the guns and those old type movies, gangster movies, right? So just a great song. It's a song this one is you don't get tired of hearing. They can play it as much as you want, as they want, and it's always gonna be welcome to me. Even the solo is great. The thing that this song I think was released as the second single off the album, which is not, to tell you the truth, if you listen to radio at that time, it's not really single material. It's more just FM kind of radio material. So I'm surprised they released it as a single. I think it stalled at 55 or somewhere around there on the charts, so it didn't really get anywhere. Where Christine 16 did. So I don't know what they could have released as their second single instead of this, but it's just a great song anyway. And I know we were talking about guitars earlier, the sound. Other than Shock Me, the guitar sound reminded me of, on this album, almost like Foreigner was back then. That kind of guitar sound. Feels like the first time or whatever. It's similar. That was just the sound maybe at the time for rock and roll. But I'm not saying, Foreigner's a great band. It works for them, and I've always loved their music. But I don't think that's the right tone for Kiss.
We talked about how it's just Paul. It's a Paul Stanley. I said it was a Paul Stanley song. Paul Stanley even played bass on the song. It's such a Paul Stanley masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
So it's him at his best. His best performance-wise, live performance on the album itself. It's him in a nutshell, in a snapshot. So next on is Peter Criss's highlight of the album, and his only lead vocal appearance on the album with Hooligan. I always loved Hooligan. I thought it was, especially when I was a kid, and it was, Peter's song on that album. It's the same guy that was singing "Beth on Destroyer." Could figure that out. And I loved it. I thought it has a great sound to it. It's really a 70s Kiss feel to that whole song. I thought it was great. I remember singing it at school. I always thought it was cool. It dropped out of school when I was 22. And I don't know. It always registered with me for some reason. I always liked it. What about you guys? How do you feel about Hooligan, Peter Criss?
Okay, go ahead, Ken.
Okay. Well, for me, that was one of the first songs that on the album that I didn't care for it at the beginning so much when I first heard it. I like it a lot more now, actually. Maybe it's taken 40 years to grow on me, but I do like it a lot more now. Back then, I thought it was just. I didn't get it. I understood the lyrics, what they were saying, but I just the song was so different from the rest of the album that it kind of, I had a hard time getting into it. But like I said, now I enjoy it a lot more, ton more, probably 100% more than I did back when I first heard it on the album. It was one of the ones, maybe a couple songs that I thought I could skip back then.
Interesting. Mark, what about you?
Well, again, this is I kind of view it as unfortunately sort of a throwaway song, but it is kind of a shame because I think that if Eddie Kramer would have maybe pushed the guys to probably help make the song a little bit more better, like maybe help put a little bit more attention to detail like they did with Ace's song, it could have turned out a bit better than it did. I mean, it's very basic in structure, the song. I mean, I'm sure Paul or Gene or somebody could have came up with another part to help it out. You know what I mean? It's just so basic. And, the lyrics are even very basic, like very elementary schoolish as far as, the rhyming and stuff like that. And, the only thing I ever found kind of interesting about it was when I watched that concert video I have from the Love Gun tour, when they played it, I was always kind of surprised that Paul Stanley pulled out the double neck for this. I was like, wow, why is he playing a double neck for this song? Like a 12 string at that, the electric 12 with a capo way the hell up here on the 7th fret. I'm like, wow, this is sort of odd. I never would have, picked that out. And for some reason, I was sort of transfixed on that for the longest time. Whenever I watched that video, I always kind of wanted to look forward to that song because I always wondered, why is he doing that? Like, just from a guitar player's perspective, And but on album, it's not bad. Like he doesn't sing it bad or nothing like that. There's Peter has a very unique voice, very signature voice that you can pick out anywhere, and it suits his style. But I always think that he always kind of gets the short end of the stick on these records. If they would have had a producer that would say, listen, pulled Paul by the ear and said, listen, come and help Peter with this song, give him a stronger pre-chorus or something. Let's make the song a bit better. And I think Peter's songs could have turned out being better than they were. I think it was always just the fault that they took his original versions that he did with Stan Penridge, right? And they kind of always, rolled their eyes at it and said, okay, whatever, we have to do a Peter song, so let's
give him a song.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
It was the height of having the formula that, well, we have to give Peter a song.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't really want to, but fine.
And if they would have embraced it a bit more and said, okay, we got to put one song on, so let's at least make it good, try to make it at least as good as Ace's somehow, then it would have made it that much of a stronger record. So I think Peter just ends up on the short end of the stick, and unfortunately, this is one of those songs that is like the bottom end of the list, right?
Bottom of the list.
Daniel, what about you? Give us. Tell me you like the song.
What do you think? No way. I don't like this one at all. And I just read in this one, these guys were so into themselves. Egos were huge. And this is so funny when you read this one. They are asking Peter Criss what he thinks about the Love Gun album, and he says, I'd give it a 4 because they did do Hooligan the way I wanted it done. And that's all they care about. I think it's so silly. It's like having a 12-year-old killed by your side. And I'm sure Paul and Gene laughed their asses off when they read the lyrics. I thought, that's kind of true. I can't even spell my name. I dropped out of school. I won't go to school again. You know, at times Paul Stanley has said that some of the guys in the band didn't even know how to, you know, write songs, and he was referring to Peter.
You know what he's talking about.
Yeah. So I think I just had a ball with this song. Yeah, Peter, right. We don't have to write the song for himself. He does it by himself. He writes that he can't even spell his name and he won't go to school again. Great, let's put it on the album.
Perfect.
And that's all I have to say about this song. I don't think
that's funny. That's a very interesting perspective. Paul and G might have been, yeah, that's perfect. Let's go with it. That's great. He's incriminated himself. So. Almost Human. Great Gene song. They've done it on the cruise recently a couple times. Gene's doing it solo right now. Kind of Gene trying to write his own God of Thunder almost in a way. I always liked the song. I thought it didn't get the attention it deserved because there's rumors that it was played live at that first Love Gun show, and other people say no, it was not. But it sounded great when they did it on the cruise, and it sounds great with Gene playing it live, how he's doing it right now. I think it's very demonic, and I really enjoy it. What about Mark? You're laughing. You got a hot take on Almost Human, so let's hear it. Well,
I don't think it's a bad song. It's just the very first time I heard it, it almost reminded me of like Santana wanting to do a God of Thunder, with those congas and everything. There is very, very Santana-ish, that whole hand bongos action going on there. But if you strip that away and listen to it how he plays it now in the solo tour, it is a pretty cool song. It does have a really heavy riff, and I'm kind of surprised that they didn't put more emphasis on it on the studio record. Like, I'm really surprised that Eddie Kramer didn't say, you know what, Gene, I know you want to be a little bit different with this, but I really don't think these congas fit with this, and try to make it a little bit more God of Thunder-ish, make it a little bit more heavier, make it a little bit more, plotting and stuff like that. I think that's the only thing that's missing from it, from making it in that category, because he sings it really good. The playing on the most part is pretty well done on this song. I just think that it just shows what adding one instrument and adding a little bit of a change in rhythm can do to a song. You can take it from really heavy and cool to something a little bit more Latin influenced almost, and a little bit more upbeat than you would probably have imagined that it would have been. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's a bad song, and I don't think that it should have been left off. I think it's decent enough that I could have made the record. I think it's better than God Love for Sale, in my opinion. But, I just always had a problem with that whole conga thing. I just think I can't help but see Carlos Santana run out whenever I hear that,
Okay.
All right, time, muchachos.
I don't think of Carlos Santana when I hear Almost Human, but you know what I say? To each their own. Dino, what about you? What are your thoughts on Almost Human?
Well, I always liked it when Gene tried to write songs in the demon character.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best one he actually did was a lot later on in the 90s when he did Unholy. That would have been perfect for this album if he would have put Unholy on this one, but I guess Vinnie Vincent wrote the most of that one. But that's his best demon song that he wrote by himself, sort of. This one, I kind of like it. It's some sort of werewolf theme, and that's kind of how it is for Gene, you know. When he's on stage, he's this demon, you know, angry, evil, and then off stage, he's like a dork. So that's kind of, yeah, but you have to agree with me. Just watch Family Jewels and you'll see what I mean. So I guess it's kind of a split personality. He goes into character on stage, and he's great when he's on stage, the mean Gene demon character, and this is a perfect song for that. However, I didn't like the chorus. I don't know what they tried to go from some haunting vocals. I would have rather heard the Kiss dudes do the chorus. But other than that, I thought it was kind of good song and a nice attempt. And I also liked the way they did the solos. This is the only song on Love Gun that strays away from the classic Ace Frehley solos.
Yeah.
You know. Mm-hmm. They were doing a lot of noises and stuff, and I think it suits the song perfectly, because this is a twisted mind thinking about who he is. Am I evil? Am I good? I'm changing. I don't know who I am, really. I'm a demon. And the solos fit perfectly, and I think that was kind of a nice touch to this one. I don't know if Ace did those, but they're really different from the other solos on the album.
Rumor is that he didn't. It's something that Gene did, and it's also a lot of like. It seems like there's like a lot of feedback and some whammy bar stuff, which is very not Ace really. You know.
Yeah. But it suits the song because it's like a straight, you know, a psycho singing about himself.
Hey, maybe it was Carlos Santana did it.
No, here we go again.
I don't think so.
Yeah. This song, I always love the song. I think it's a great song. The first time I remember hearing it, I thought, this is like a creepy kind of song. You know,
but not as Christine 16.
Not that kind of creepy.
Not that kind of creepy.
More of the creature features kind of creepy, which I watched back in probably the early 70s, you know, the late night creature features movies they would play, and Dracula and all, werewolf, right? Which is, I believe, this is about. So, all the sounds in there that they're doing, the congas don't bother me. It works for me, I guess. But I like Daniel said, the guitar, the solo deal with the sounds that they did in the middle was very cool, and just the eerie sound that they kind of create, you know, the atmosphere that they create in the song, and the chorus, the background vocals. It just works, and it works coming from Gene, his vocals first of all, and his persona, you know, the demon persona. So it all works, and I've always loved the song.
I have too. I think it's a shame that it didn't get played in the 70s. I thought that it would have really worked well. I think that the Gene Julian Blood before the song, I think would have worked well with this song. Also, he's trying to write a different. I think, in my opinion, he was trying to write an updated God of Thunder, and I think it would have been interesting to see it showcased more. In the heyday of the band. I really like what he's doing with it now on his solo shows, and I really like the way it sounded on the couple times they've played it on the cruise. So it's a great song in my opinion. So another Gene song, Plaster Caster. it's as tongue in cheek as you're gonna get from Kiss. Kind of a fun song, a silly song almost in a way. Little uncomfortable conversation with four guys, so let's talk about Plaster Caster.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
Honestly, I think out of the songs that Gene did on this record, this is one of the more stronger ones musically, for sure. I think it's very, very catchy, very straight, like an A12 bar approach almost to this, and that's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that it really stood out. It was very rhythmically cool. I mean, let's put it this way: for MTV Unplugged, which is one of their biggest things that they had to do for television in the longest time, that was a make or break situation. That was like song 2, so that's got to tell you how good that song is. That they put it up so early in the show when people could have switched the channel if it sucked, right? So I think it's a good song. Again, the topic is just Gene's ego talking again, because as we all know, or maybe some maybe don't know, the Plaster Caster girls were girls that actually took casts of certain rock people's genitalia, right? And he claims to, with the song, he was almost trying to claim that he was one of those people, and it was well known that they never even wanted to do anything with Gene Simmons. He was not on their radar at all. So that's again Gene's, ego working overtime in lyrical form, right? But the song is good. I really like it. I think the solo's cool in it. I think everything about it vocally is really cool. It has a really strong melody, and I think that it's well done. I think honestly, it doesn't deserve to be so far in the album. Like, I think they should have probably brought it up a bit earlier in the record. I think it's a lot stronger than they make it look on the album. So I give it a thumbs up. Again, just the lyrics are always kind of the thing that's in question. And again, at that point, how Gene was then. He was supposedly God's gift to women at the time, so God forbid that he could ever say that he never was one of those people,
Again, it's one of those songs where I was talking about earlier. You can replace the word love with dick, and you kind of understand what's happening. So, so Daniel, what about you?
I think it's a fun song. I think it's all right. Kind of fun. And as a historical monument, it kind of, captures a time in rock history. So for that, it's good. And it's pretty obvious he wrote this one on an acoustic guitar, It kind of works well on an acoustic guitar. It doesn't work that well on the album, I think. I prefer the unplugged version. And as most of Gene's songs, he writes them on acoustic guitar. And if he doesn't get any input, it doesn't really work on electric guitar. For instance, one of the greatest songs ever in the Kiss catalog, Fits Like a Glove. Have you heard that? The demo. If you hear the demo of that one.
No.
The demo, it's just Gene doing 3 chords. Sounds horrible. Then you add Vinnie Vincent, and you have one of the greatest tunes in history. So that's my.
This song, it's one of the songs that I liked the most when I first heard the album. I still love the song. I love the way the song starts and kind of kicks in at the beginning. The way they do it, it is a catchy song. To me, this would have been a good second single off the album. But first of all, the subject matter wasn't gonna work, I don't think, on AM radio, unfortunately. And then the other thing was Paul was gonna have none of that, where he doesn't get a single, and he had Love Gun. So, but this song is a great song. It's a catchy tune. Man, I always like to hear it anytime it comes up. So I'm looking forward to hearing it, hopefully, when I see Gene down in Southern California in beginning of August. So nothing. This is not a skipper for me.
No, it's a fun song. I was tease about it, but it's a great song. Like you're talking about, it being the second song on MTV Unplugged. It sounds fantastic on there as well. And Gene's vocals on MTV Unplugged, he really just sounds great that night when they recorded that. It's a fun song. I enjoy it, and it was good to see him when he did it on the when I saw him live a couple months ago. So
I don't remember. Did he sing it in his soft voice on the album, or did he use the demon voice?
I think he used his normal voice.
More of a normal voice and more it's not demonic.
And he's great at that, but he doesn't he doesn't use it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
But he can do that. Like "See You Tonight" is a great example on Unplugged.
Right.
He sounds incredible, but unfortunately, most of the time in concerts, he just go for the demon voice, and it sounds great too. But I would like him to do one or two tunes live when he uses his soft voice, because Going Blind sounds great. He's probably the best singer in the band right now. Well, maybe Eric Singer is a bit better. I don't know.
I remember being 8 or 9 years old and going around singing Plaster Caster, and I had no idea what it meant or anything. I just thought it was a fun song. And then you get a little older and you figure out what it's about. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be walking around singing that. So one more song on the album. They do a cover of original song, Then He Kissed Me, and they make Then She Kissed Me to close out the album.
Greatest ever.
Gentlemen, your thoughts on Then She Kissed Me.
I'll go first. This they should have never put this song on that album. I mean, it's so not Kiss.
Agreed.
I don't know who came up with that idea to put this one.
Paul Stanley.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the deal. Bob Ezrin suggested it.
Wow.
But
Blame Ezrin for something.
The deal is, the rumor has it is, I think they were thinking of doing Jailhouse Rock.
Yeah.
Right? Which
even worse.
Well, no, I think it would have been better than this song for sure. It would have been interesting to hear them trying to rock out on that one. Who knows what it would have turned out? It could have been a mess. Maybe they just should have written another song, or had another of their own songs. There was no reason to put a cover tune on the album. It just doesn't make any sense. And then to turn it around from the female song, which it was originally, around to the male side kind of thing, and it just I never got it. I never got this song, and so this one I probably end at Plaster Caster and then take the album off because I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I go ahead, Daniel.
I'd add another Ace Frehley song instead. Whatever he could have come up with would have been better than this. In this book, Behind the Mask, one thing you never get from me is bullshit, says Paul Stanley. I was a big fan of Then She Kissed Me, and that's a great song, and it needs to be redone. So that's what he said. So I guess it was the last.
It's a great song. Why does it
it was the last song they recorded for the album. So I guess they needed one more song, and they didn't have any demos that they liked. And Paul Stanley came in one day. What about this one? Okay, let's do it. But Paul Stanley gets his will through too much at times. It's like they don't dare to criticize him at times, and they should just have said to him, that's not a song for this album, let's do something else. But I guess no one dared to stand up to him, and they did it, and it doesn't fit the album at all. And then and the last song, they should have ended with a bang instead of this one. just imagine if they would have any song from the Ace Frehley solo album, or the Alive 2 album, maybe Rocket Ride or American Man or something like that, would have been great. But this one is just a throwaway, one of the worst covers ever. It doesn't fit the album. I don't know what they were thinking. And Eddie Kramer should be ashamed that he couldn't stand up to Paul Stanley.
Yeah. Well, I agree with most of that. I mean, Kiss are a typical example of a band that should steer away from cover songs altogether. They're a band that do not know how to do good covers. I mean, look at their track record, and they're just horrible. Any Way You Want It sucked. Kissing Time was brutal.
There's one good in '91.
Okay, well, so you have one, but I mean, I never understood the mentality of a band like this, where they have so many songs out there that they could take that were better songs overall that you could cover, but yet they always tend to go to songs that are just not good to begin with. I mean, I've seen bands now that do covers, and bands are picking cool stuff, like they do a Maiden cover, they do an Alice Cooper cover now. Like, why couldn't they have done something, along those lines back then? I mean, I'm not saying to do an Alice Cooper song, but I'm just saying like something that was a bit more familiar and something a little bit more cool. I mean, even if they did a Beatles song, for crying out loud, I bet you they could have did any Beatles song they could have redid that would have went over a lot better than any of those covers they've done. And they love the Beatles, so they probably would have did a really good job with it. Why not do that? They always pick these terrible songs. I don't get it.
Should have done Helter Skelter in the early '80s.
There you go.
The song does not fit on the album, in my opinion, as well. It just, they had done a few albums at that point that really ended with a bang, like you guys were saying.
Making Love.
Mm-hmm. Do You Love Me? Black Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
I Rock and Roll All Night. They really
Strange
ended.
Ways.
They had a history of ending albums with an in-your-face statement, and it, maybe to some people it kind of represents the beginning of the end, with them closing out the album with this, because shortly thereafter they did a live 2 with the 4 studio tracks, and then Kiss kind of changes a little bit with Dynasty, and it was maybe the beginning of the end of the original period.
Yeah,
so,
I agree 100%, because after the Alive 2 tour, they started to really get off the rails. You know what happened after the Alive 2 tour? Phantom of the Park.
One of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah.
So they toured. You guys mentioned that they made the album. They recorded the album in May. The album hits record shelves on June 30th, 1977, 40 years ago today. They start touring in Halifax, Canada, to start the tour on July 8th, 1977. And they do a run through Canada. And they have a brief run through the States on the Love Gun tour. Not a really lengthy tour.
No.
The tour ends September 5th. They weren't on the road very long at all.
Yeah, but then the Alive 2 tour started.
Right, and then the Alive 2 tour kind of kicks up where it left off.
It's like the
kind
same
of
tour.
Kind of morphs into the same. Kind of morphs into the Alive 2 tour with the same set, with the same stage, with the same outfits.
Sure.
They just kind of took a break, released the Live 2, and then continue on in the mode that Kiss was in, of a constant touring, constant recording mode.
We have to address the tour somehow.
Absolutely. I mean, there's some great footage of the tour between Houston 77, those shows, Largo, Maryland 77. It's really Kiss at their. We mentioned Kiss at their height, but it's really Kiss at their height touring wise too. I mean, it's probably one of their biggest stage shows. Everybody references the Alive 2 stage, which is the same stage as the Love Gun stage. It's You know, it's at the time, 40 years ago, it's mind blowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, Ken, you didn't see him until '79, did you? You didn't see the Love Gun tour.
Yeah, I didn't see him in '79. They did pass through on the day Elvis died. They played at the Cal Palace in San Francisco.
It's a great bootleg.
I was too early to start, just starting to get into them. I didn't know that they were coming through. Wasn't watching close enough. I don't know if I would have made it to it. But yeah, that would have been one to have gone to as a first concert. You know, that would have been pretty awesome. But so I had to wait a couple of years later and saw them Dynasty tour.
Yeah, it was a total success, you know, the Love Gun tour and the Live 2 tour. If you look in Kurt, how do you pronounce his last name?
Gooch.
Yeah. He mentions that they had an average attendance of well over 13,000 on the Live 2 tour, and that has to be the greatest number in history, I guess. So people were coming out to see them at this time. And then we got the solo albums and Dynasty, and they messed things up. They had such a chance. But I guess they had been doing it for quite some time, and it wasn't fresh. So maybe it would have happened even if they would have released a Rock and Roll Over 2 or something. But things started to decline after the Love Gun Live 2 tour, big time.
Yeah.
So they go out on tour. They really showcase this album quite a bit on the tour. With Love Gun being played, I Swear Your Love, Shock Me,
Hooligan.
Christine 16, Hooligan.
They did
5 songs are staples.
They did play "Got Love for Sale" on the first few shows of the tour, and then it disappeared. But it's too bad it didn't keep it on.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a strong record, you know. I mean, and really back in the day, it was really emphasis on pushing your latest product. I mean, nowadays it's not so much a thing to do that. I mean, look at any of these, classic bands that are out now, like an AC/DC or any of the other bands. Whenever they make a new record, they play maybe 2 new songs off the record, and then the rest of it is all off the old material. Back then, you really wanted to push your latest album because, especially that's the thing too about the record. It did really well. I mean, overall, like it was number 3 in Canada, it was number 2 in Japan, it was number 6 in Daniel's country there.
Yeah.
It was number 8 in Switzerland, number 4 in the US, 13 in Australia, and 18 in Germany. So I mean, it was a top 20 record pretty much everywhere. So it did well, so the tour would obviously do well. So you're going to want to push the songs off of it. I mean, if it's a good record and it sells well, then you should have no problem playing the material off of that record because it's selling, right?
But it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about the tours they did. They played Japan for the first time in '77 on the Love Gun tour.
Yeah.
And there were great attendance, and they lost money on that tour. I don't know how they did it. But if I don't know.
Well, look at what they did. They got a 747 plane that. Well, they didn't rent the whole thing, but they dragged out like 50 people from the press.
They were
with them
stupid.
That they had to put up in hotels and feed and everything else. So there you go. Lots of money's going through there, and think about how much it must have cost to cart this gear across to Japan. It's not cheap, right?
Yeah, but fortunately they learned and they went back. They went back to Japan at the end of the Live 2 tour, and it was a complete success. But they only played, I think, in Tokyo, 4 or 5 gigs, and it was a complete sellout. But they didn't travel around Japan as they did on the previous tour, and it was a success. And after that, Peter Criss became a cokehead, unfortunately. Yeah, that's the truth of it. To be plain, I mean, that's the final tour that he was great on, and then something happened, and he never recovered, unfortunately. However, I do like the final shows he did, that Julian attended. Kind of fun.
Yeah, so if you want to know more about that tour, that's a good book to get. Alan's magazine that he just put out that time there, the Kiss Takes Tokyo '77
Yep.
magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read
That has
that.
all kinds of stuff on the tour, right? So if you want to know more about it, that's a good place to check out and start, right?
What about Alan's book then? Have you read that one?
Kiss in Japan.
Yeah.
I have the other one. Yeah, I have that book as well. It's really good. I mean, Japan is always an interesting place to go to for any band. I mean, they have one of the most loyal audiences for some acts. I mean, look at a band like, for example, like an artist like Yngwie Malmsteen. He was a complete dead issue in the United States, but continued to make platinum albums. Yeah, but he continued to make platinum records in Japan, toured in Japan. He made so much money in Japan that he pretty much almost at one point stayed in Europe and toured Japan exclusively because they were so loyal to him. And the same thing with Kiss. I mean, the problem with Kiss, they would have went back, I'm sure, several more times for tours, but it's just because of the cost of getting them from America over to there. You know, it's a lot more than an act from Europe going over there, right? It's half the distance traveled, right?
For sure. So, 40 years ago today, Love Gun comes out.
Oh, can I hold you one second
Go ahead.
there, Lonnie?
Absolutely.
While you're talking about that, that's what I want to bring up is there is, conflicting data and thoughts about when Love Gun came out. I still think it's the 30th. There's others saying that it came out like on the 17th of June or earlier, but because it maybe appeared like in an ad, but sometimes ads can appear.
It showed that today.
Sometimes ads can appear early or before an album really comes out, or who knows. But I was basing my thoughts on it, and first I saw the RIAA award for going platinum was June 30th. Which is that's when it shipped. It shipped June 30th, and they gave them that award June 30th. The other thing is Billboard. I was looking at old issues online of Billboard and Cashbox magazine, and it shows that it was like around July 9th issues that it showed. Particularly Cashbox said that it was on the charts for 1 week. It's been in 1 week, as of 1 week. So 1 week from around July 9th, whenever they published the magazine. So it had to be June, usually it's the week before. That's a weekly magazine. Billboard is a weekly magazine. And usually the following week you'd get the actual album showing on what it appeared on the charts according to sales. So that's when they appeared on those in those magazines. So I still think it's the June 30th, but I'm not saying it's for sure, but that's where I lean.
Yeah, and don't forget too. I mean, how this came up, I think, is you're talking about that picture they showed from that Ross Radley book, probably, right, where they showed that advertisement of the first actual ad for the album being sold.
Sure.
And but the thing is, though, you got to remember as well, it's not like these ads aren't accidentally run early, for example, or sometimes I know for a fact that record stores sometimes put out product early. I know I picked up a record that came out and it was supposed to come out the week following week, and they accidentally put it out a week early.
They would just put it out at the time. It wasn't as strict as it is today.
Yeah.
So
they'd get it, and it'd come in UPS or whatever, and the record store would just put it out. They didn't have.
Or they wouldn't wait sometimes. They just, forget of waiting till the 30th. Let's just put it out. We're
going to sell this. We're going to make some money.
Yeah.
Why are we going to wait? So I think June 30th is still the actual official release date. Maybe some people got it on, before that, but I think June 30th is still, we can still say is the official release date for Love Gun 40 years ago today. It's kind of mind-blowing. It's 40 years ago.
Yeah.
We can't hear you, Daniel.
Daniel, you're muted.
Sorry about that. The years pass so fast, so that's always incredible. Thinking back, you think, well, I heard Asylum a couple of years ago. Oh, it was 30 years ago. Sorry. But the main thing about Love Gun, I think, is it's the pinnacle of Kiss, but it's also the downfall. You know, just when this Love Gun Alive 2 tour ended, I guess Gene, I would guess it was him, who convinced the others that Phantom of the Park was a great idea. And then you had Dynasty Unmasked the Elder, and they killed it. They killed the momentum they had. So this was the peak and the end. So it's an important time in history.
For sure. Absolutely. So for you listening, what are your thoughts on the Love Gun album? What are your thoughts on the songs, the packaging, the tour? Let us know at KissFAQ.com under the discussion board. Give us some thoughts on YouTube comments, however you choose to listen to the show. And for everyone listening, for those in the United States, have a safe and happy 4th of July weekend.
Canada Day.
And what is it in Canada this weekend?
It's Canada Day in July 1st. 150th
yes,
birthday
Canada
of Canada.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Canada. Is there a holiday in Sweden this weekend?
Well, we had midsummer last week. You know, the sun never goes down this period, so it's kind of cool. So I can sit here all night long if I want
That's
to.
awesome.
No werewolves.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No werewolf. No.
Perfect.
God, I'm almost human.
Well, guys, thank you for doing the show today, and thank you for everyone who listened. I hope that you weren't too disappointed that Julian wasn't on today, and I hope you stuck with us to the end. So give us your thoughts on Love Gun. Leave us some feedback on the board. Leave us some feedback on YouTube, and we will see you next time. You stay classy, Kiss Army.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.